Hello and welcome to episode 176 of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
And I'm Bill, and we're still quarantined.
I'm in quarantine a little bit more, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, Jason and I were talking offline. We need a national plan. We need everybody to suck it up and just do it, and so we get on with our lives because it's just not working out. So the big news this week was the Big Ten and the Pac-10 saying they were only going to play conference games, which we talked about on the show. I got to be a month ago.
Yeah.
That we said that's what we thought would happen, and it makes sense. I mean, you can control. The conferences all have the same rules, the same standards, and everything else, so you can control it a little bit better. But I am going to miss a couple of those interconference games that I thought would be pretty good. And of course, it's really going to hit those Mid-America and non-Power 5 schools that had those exhibition games with the big paydays.
Exactly. Yeah, I want to see how many of the smaller schools actually go ahead and have a season. Because, like you said, I mean, the other problem with the Big Ten, or the nice thing with the Big, it's like, okay, so somebody in Michigan came down with it. We're only dealing with our own self. We can rework the schedule, and they can play that game in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I mean, it's, they can work together and make it work. So see what happens to the small schools, if they're going to try to do a similar plan amongst themselves, or they're just going to say, let's try next year.
Yeah. But, we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's probably a crapshoot right now, 50-50 at best, if you think the season's actually going to finish.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing you'd say about any of it, the NBA, MLB, or any of it. I mean, one bad day of testing can shut the whole thing down. And we saw the MLS thing's been a disaster with teams having to pull out of their tournament.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, that's been premature, and that's in Orlando. And the NBA's in Orlando. We'll see how good this bubble works. The ACC's kind of leaning toward the no conference, but all conference only. But and Notre Dame's really not in the conference, but since they are for everything else, Notre Dame would play primarily an ACC conference schedule. And then the Big 12 and the SEC, those will be the last to decide, and I think those two are the two that will do whatever it takes to play a full season.
Oh, without a doubt.
And so we'll have to see how that goes out. But I mean, that's really, and to be honest with you, that's a lot of football people like to watch. So.
I think the SEC is popular enough, especially as I live in an SEC like city or close to. We have Baton Rouge, we have LSU. You could have inter-squad scrimmages on TV every week, and they'd be probably happy. So, I mean, worst case scenario, they can just have purple versus yellow, red versus white, and just roll out their own and just never leave the school, and people would still love watching it.
There's no question people in each state would still watch it. There's no question at all.
And let's face it, I mean, I think people in other states would watch it too, just to have something on TV. So get that Saturday football going. Get that gambling up there. Get it all going.
Just got to do something. Got to get people a release and got to get on with things. So the MLB announced their schedule for this year and next year last week, which I found interesting in that the 2021 schedule still doesn't, and for the interleague games, they're still the very close teams. They're still not, it's not a West Coast team coming east to play. So they're still being very careful next year.
Yeah. And I've seen hockey like the NBA. I've seen some players that are either on the fence or they're not going to go. They're not going to participate right now. Whether they have a child on the way or they have a child with asthma or they just don't want to, they want to risk it
No.
for.
And that's what it should be. I mean, you should make decisions that are common sense. If you spend time with an elderly parent, or your wife is pregnant, or you have a kid, you just don't want to take the chance. And it's not a full season, and if you're an NBA player, you pretty much got all your money anyhow.
Yeah.
What are you risking this for? And it's really not. Nobody's going to look at this and say, "Wow, they were the true NBA champion." It's going to be an Astor championship, even if the NBA says it's not an Astor championship, but it is.
Yeah, And I know the players say that every year there's something, but this year is a whole different picture. And you look at the teams that are primed to win it. Like if this is Giannis's first championship, let's say, he's going to have to win a second one because nobody's going to count it, 5 years from now when they're talking head shows. They're going to be like, well, they won one, but it was in the COVID year. And if LeBron wins one...
The only one they'll count is if LeBron wins.
Probably.
Probably because it's in another city, it's with another team, they're going to count it.
Speaking of LeBron...
They should. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying... I don't have any power over life and death to decide these things, but...
No.
But I think that one will be one that the public will consider that a championship.
I think so. And again, you could argue that, it might even be a tougher championship to win given all the outstanding circumstances and everything else. And like I said, we don't know what 2021 is going to bring, so who knows? But I did see that LeBron and AD are not going to wear one of the 29 approved social messages on the back of their jerseys. They're sticking with their own names.
Yeah, I saw LeBron say he wasn't going to do that. And I guess the message that LeBron would want to say, I guess they didn't ask him what he would want to say, which is hard to believe.
Yeah.
But I guess what he wants to say is probably, I don't know.
Yeah, he didn't say what he wanted to say. Or what... And again, I'm wondering of the 20... I haven't seen the list. I looked for it. I couldn't find the list of the 29 approved. The only one I saw for sure is you can put BLM for Black Lives Matter. Because I think Kyle Korver has already said he's going to wear that on his jersey. But I haven't seen the other 28 messages.
Can't breathe one of them?
It is. I was sort of shocked that LeBron didn't find one that he would want to wear, Not that LeBron doesn't do a ton of stuff social justice-wise. He's out there. He's very vocal. But I was sort of surprised that, either if he wasn't part of the 29 messages, that he couldn't find one of the 29 that said what he wanted to say. And then if there isn't one of those 29 that says what he wants to say, I mean, I guess he's probably, I think LeBron is caught between a rock and, sort of with the China stuff. There's business and there's other things. And I feel like in normal circumstances, he would probably come out and be like, this is what I wanted to have on my jersey that was not approved. But I feel like given the state of the country and everything else, I feel like he's weighing a lot of that on himself and sort of just being like, I'll say that I couldn't say what I wanted to say, but I'm not going to leave it right now. I'm just going to try to focus on getting everybody able to play and watch hoops again.
Well, if I was going to wear a jersey, you know what my message would be?
What's that?
Vote on November 3rd.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
That's what I would wear.
And I saw a goofy one from a bar that made a lot of sense that we need in this world right now, which is even on Gilligan's Island, they listen to the professor and not the millionaire, which we need a lot more of. Let's listen to our smart people.
Well, I've not seen that one. I like that.
Yes.
I like it. Was it on social media?
Yeah. It looked like somebody took a picture of one of those, the signs outside of country bars where you have to put the letters up one at a time.
Uh-huh.
That's what's written on there.
I like that. I might have to find a gift or make a gift for it. I have to repeat that one.
Yeah, because that's fair. I mean, listen to the scientists, especially when it's the general consensus of all of them. It's probably good advice. Or doctors or any of those smart people that you didn't go to school for.
Yeah.
I got to say...
Shout out to Governor DeSantis today for breaking another record here in Florida.
He's getting real famous. We hear a lot about him down here, too. So,
Governor Jaws, I call him.
Yeah. It's so weird because people talked about now, and I thought this was kind of funny. This brings in movies and everything all together. Is that next time you make a zombie outbreak movie, you better show a large portion of people running at the zombies and getting bit saying it's all a hoax. Because otherwise it'll just be unrealistic moving forward,
Yeah.
I did see something that upset me today in a sports bay, Dad.
Okay.
I listen to a lot of the Ringer Network, and they have a new podcast coming out called The Cam Chronicles, which is sort of a Cam Newton, how did he end up where he ended up sort of situation. Okay. And my memory of Cam Newton is that he's missed the last almost 3 seasons. But he hasn't.
He's missed a lot.
He's only missed...
When he was playing, his arm strength wasn't what it was.
No, but he put up pretty good stats in 2017 and 2018. He obviously missed most of last year. But as a fan of a team that, as we know, everyone knows we're Steeler fans, like with a quarterback coming back who's old and injury prone, and another quarterback on the roster who myself and everyone in analytics community who I know I've railed against sometimes as maybe the worst quarterback they've ever seen from every statistical number in Mason Rudolph. I would have liked to have seen the Steelers snag him and have him as their backup and not go to New England. Because I didn't realize how he's been very productive running and throwing the ball up until last year for the most part. Now, granted, you could say his arm strength, but,
Yeah, but I think he was going to get a situation where he was going to start, and that's what he did.
Yeah.
And the Steelers, you were already all in, right or wrongly, you were already in on Roethlisberger all the way.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that one. And, I think he's going to flourish there, to be honest with you. I think he's going to have a great year.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm afraid of, too. It's going to be in New England, and Belichick will figure out a way.
They will probably have, they'll probably have a game plan for him that's probably been the best fitting game plan he's ever had.
Yes.
So, we'll see.
Yes, we will.
I want to talk a little bit about a column that Mitch Albom wrote this morning in the Detroit Free Press. And it was his response to how we've handled the Deshaun Jackson, Hitler racism comments. And he points out, and we shouldn't need reminded of this all these times, but the Jewish people have been oppressed and discriminated against in real racism since before Christ. And it's always continued.
Yeah.
And he was very, very eloquent in the way he described it. Not saying, it's this and nothing else. Just saying, if you're going to shout out against racism or against some kind of discrimination, then you should be against all discrimination.
Right.
You shouldn't pick and choose. And so he called out Steven Jackson and Deshaun Jackson and a couple other people that said, hey, it's not our problem. And really, it is your problem because it's the same problem you have.
It's the same system. It's the same, fighting against,
When people ignore it, that compounds the problem. So if you keep quiet just because it doesn't affect you, then you're just inviting it to continue. And so I thought he was really, really well stated. If you follow me on Twitter, I commented on it and I retweeted it and sent it out on my following too. But I thought he's a great writer to begin with, but I thought the way he positioned this, and he wasn't calling for Deshaun Jackson to lose his job. He said that's not, it might have happened in other circumstances for somebody else calling something out, but it's not the solution. The solution is that we all have to come together and figure this out.
Yes.
So I thought it was really, really well done.
And Malcolm Jenkins, who is one of the most brilliant NFL players, always says some wonderful stuff. He came out and spoke on it. And then the Steelers' own Zach Banner, 6'8", 360-pound Zach Banner, had some good things to say about it as well. So
he did. I thought Zach Banner, he came out early too. He came out very quickly.
Yeah. And Zach Banner, is not a star. He wasn't even a full-time starter up until probably, a little bit of last year and potentially this year. So, he.
Now, the one thing about the Steelers is they were pretty close to that Tree of Life issue in Pittsburgh, the murders that took place there. And so the Steelers actually had that logo with changing one of the stars in their logo to the Star of David to salute it. So they were pretty far out in front of it.
Yes.
But we'll see what happens. Also some controversy now on playing the Black National Anthem before the National Anthem. And I know, it kind of gets back to what I said. I wouldn't play the National Anthem, period.
No.
We don't play it at the movie theater. We don't play it on Broadway.
And especially when you look at the history of it. It was a marketing tool by the U.S. military. They paid the NFL, Major League Baseball, at least. It wasn't some patriotic thing. It was a recruiting tool. If you look at the history of it through all the legal forms, that's all it ever was. So it doesn't need to be there. You can do it in your own home.
I'm not saying I respect the flag. I respect the national anthem.
Right.
I just don't think that's the forum. It has gone. It's one of those things that's outlived its usefulness.
Yeah.
In terms of being played at a sporting event.
Oh, I think so. It's just let sports be sports, I guess is the thing.
Yeah. So So we are getting back to sports. As we be about 2 weeks from now, we're going to be able to watch the NBA hopefully from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day.
Hopefully, yes. Fingers crossed.
We'll be able
Toes
to watch
crossed.
baseball. We'll be able to watch some hockey, I guess, by then.
Hockey said July 13th is they go back to training camp, and then eventually end of July get to their bubbles.
All coming along. So, but again, you know, if we talked about this offline, do we really think it's going to make it all the way through? And it's debatable. But, you know, I applaud them for wanting to do it. We'll have to see.
But until then, there is a lot of entertainment.
Yeah.
So I'll give you some Netflix stuff for this week.
Okay.
Like lots of people have been excited. I watched Unsolved Mysteries. A few of them I would not say are unsolved. They're you can't punish the person you know is guilty because they did a really good job of hiding the evidence, as you say. But there's a couple. They're all pretty compelling, and they lead you to want more. It doesn't have the narrator like the old Unsolved Mysteries, and they made it a little more like a standard crime documentary that we see nowadays, and less of kind of that cheesy.
Is there a host for it?
No host.
Okay.
It's less. It's more like I said. It's set up like a standard like true crime documentary now, where we get basically some interviews and the facts, and then we go from there. And like I said, two of them, it's pretty obvious what happened. They just don't have the evidence to convict the person, whether it's missing them, they can't find the body. But there's a French one on there that's very compelling, and then the opening one, it leaves a lot of suspicious circumstances, and there's some really weird stuff that they leave out. But those are all, I think if you watch those, you're able to sit down and fly through the first 6, and the next 6 are coming out in a few months. But everyone likes a good mystery, and then you get online, you can deep dive and try to figure out what's going on and see what you know, what you don't know. I need to figure out this guy's name. I wish I knew it, but there's another documentary called Mucho Amore. It's about this. He was a Spanish psychic. He was a Spanish, he's from Puerto Rico. He was like a soap opera actor, and then they caught him on camera just doing these readings of Capricorn, Leo. He's very positive. It was a really entertaining documentary. I'd never heard of him. Apparently, he got huge in America too. Like he was on like Sally Jesse Raphael, Regis and Kathy Lee, and it's one of those like it's very informative. It's very good, well done, and he seemed like a really cool, nice person. He's got a very Liberace thing though, where he was very flamboyant. Had sort of that androgynous, dressed a certain way. But I guess I learned in Spanish culture at that point, like if you didn't come out, then people just assumed you were just flamboyant. So there wasn't the machismo. You weren't angry at the person, but hugely popular.
Okay.
And that's called Mucho Amore, and that's out on that right now. So.
I watched the original Westworld last night with Yul Brynner, Richard Benjamin, and James Brolin, and I really liked it. I thought they did it's one of those things like Stephen King, The Body, and you get a great movie, Stand By Me, out of it.
Yeah.
Westworld wasn't a novel; it was a novella or a short story that Michael Crichton wrote, and he directed this. He actually directed the movie and did a great job. I thought that was very, very interesting, and also gave me a glimpse of medieval world and Roman world, which I thought were kind of interesting to see those because we knew they existed in the HBO series, but we haven't seen them unless they're showing them this season.
I think I saw some clips of the samurai area, so I think they might have been a little bit more.
Yeah, might try to. But it was really, really enjoyable. And then I have been very faithful to watching my film noir every Sunday morning on Turner Classic Movies as well. And there's one Saturday night and there's a different one on Sunday morning, and they are really, really well done. This morning was Bodyguard, and it was outstanding. And next week is a Supernatural. They said it's a Supernatural noir.
Oh.
With Peter Lorre, Sidney Greenstein, and somebody else. And so I'm all over that one to see how that turns out.
Oh, and another thing, Netflix right now, because we just watched, in the last week I've watched the Back to the Future trilogy, and this morning, before we went on podcast, I was watching Indiana Jones. But on Netflix they have Indiana Jones trilogy, Back to the Future trilogy, Jaws, Poltergeist, E.T., they have all these sort of, Spielberg and famous 80s and 90s sort of, fun, feel-good movies. So, if you're a little bummed out in your house, like, Back to the Future will certainly lift your spirits, as will Indiana Jones. And I know the story of Indiana Jones.
Fun movies.
Yeah. And even though
technically... Ferris Bueller's Day Off has been on a lot lately, too.
Yeah. And we all know that if Indiana Jones did nothing, and just let them did nothing, he didn't really have to do anything he did in that movie, and everything would have been the exact same. Which I understand. But it's still an enjoyable ride regardless.
Yeah. I love the Indiana Jones one a lot. I like the first one, and I like the Crusade one with Sean Connery.
And the Back to the Future, the first Back to the Future, is a really fun movie. And as a supplement, look up Back to the Future and John Mulaney, the comedian. Because him doing his fake movie pitch to the studio executives for Back to the Future, when he talks about all the weird stuff that happens in that movie, is absolutely hysterical. Because, you've got, Marty McFly, who's just sort of a lazy high school kid who's friends with a disgraced old nuclear physicist, and his parents are totally fine with it. There's pseudo, it's a weird movie. He almost has sex with his mom. I mean, you go through it all. His comedic timing and pitch on it is pretty fantastic. But it's a great movie either way. I didn't find two. Two was two's not great.
No, I've seen two, but I've never seen three.
Three is a Western, which, two is a little bit all over the place, whereas three is a much more... you can't beat the first one.
No, the first one's outstanding.
The first was outstanding. But the third one was surprisingly more enjoyable than I remembered.
Okay.
And it's got Mary Steenburgen in it, who's lovely. Mary Steenburgen, everybody loves her.
Okay, but is Michael J. Fox still in it?
He is.
Okay.
And his Western name is Clint Eastwood, and people make fun of his name for being a stupid name. Like, what kind of dumb name is that?
I'll have to watch it. I've never watched the third one.
Yeah, it's... Again, in this time where you're, hopefully doing a lot of social distancing and spending time with a small group of people in your house, like, going back and watching the Back to the Future trilogy is never a bad idea. So, mix it up a little bit. Classic movie nights.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's well done.
It's very well done. And again, they're all fun, it's from a different time. So, they're not heavy movies by any stretch, And who doesn't want to go on an adventure with Indiana Jones? It's fun.
Well, I'm reading an interesting book.
Okay.
I sent it to you. I told you I was reading it, called Empire of Sin by Gary Christ. And it's about the history of New Orleans.
Okay.
And it's really, really interesting. And so there's actually a trivia question. In America, blacks have been lynched. The racial group have been lynched most. Not that that's a great record. What ethnic group do you think has been lynched the second most times?
The Irish.
No.
Oh. American Indians? Native Americans?
No.
Oh, I don't know that.
No.
No idea.
The Italians.
Oh.
And I was shocked.
Yeah.
If I was going to guess, I would have guessed Jewish.
Right.
Or Native Americans. Those would be my two guesses. But I was surprised, and there's a lot of it detailed in this book. And so it's a really good read. I mean, you learn about so many things. Like there's an entire chapter on jazz and how jazz developed in New Orleans and how it was different. And there's a chapter on how they legislated prostitution and created this whole district in New Orleans called Storyville. And the goal of Storyville was to move it, since it was all over New Orleans, they wanted to confine it to a certain area. And it's really, really well written. It reads like one of those Eric Larson books.
Oh, nice.
Like Devil in the White City. It's
Yeah.
really, really good.
Okay. I'm looking forward to getting that then. That sounds good.
Yeah, it's a really good one.
Oh.
It's historical that reads a little bit like, it reads like a novel, kind of. But it's really historic. It's really very biographical. It's really good.
And we both appreciate those guys.
Yeah.
I do have a pseudo food moment.
Oh, good. I'm glad you share something with me.
Okay, so we donned our face masks and we went to Sweet Thang's, which is a little, it's like a gourmet snowball shop, which is the snow cone.
Nobody has better snowballs than New Orleans.
Right, they do not skimp on the syrup, but this one, I got a traditional. I just got grape, pineapple, and lime all mixed together, and just a traditional snowball. But they have one that comes inside of a pineapple. Um, Maria got a strawberry shortcake one, which had shortcake, ice cream, and then it's got the snowball part with the strawberry syrup everywhere, and then a little bit of cream on top of that.
Yeah, see, New Orleans got the snowball down.
Yeah, and this is a really small little place in Mid City. I don't think it's been open very long. They had very few pictures on Yelp and Instagram. But like I said, they make some. You can get your traditional, or you can get a crazy one. And the other thing everyone seemed to be getting was crawfish nachos. So that seemed to be a pop. They have nachos and snowballs. But again, you can get tons of syrup, way more than you ever need. But if you're getting a snowball, you want the syrup. Let's be honest. You want it to be. You're not tasting the ice. You want to taste the syrup. And then
is the ice the real fine ice?
Oh yeah.
Or is it? So it's like almost a powdered ice.
Yeah.
That's really good.
And then, like I said, it seemed like strawberry cheesecake was a popular one too, and it has a giant slice of cheesecake right down the side of the snowball. So, sweet things, and it's with a THANGS or Z. There might be a Z, but if you start typing sweet thang, you'll get there eventually. And like I said, it's a local business, so support local. They did a really good job. They removed all the tables and chairs. You can keep your 6 feet. You order, you step away, they'll call you back up. Everybody had a mask on. Everybody social distance.
Good.
I guess my one caveat, and I saw this in some of the Yelp reviews, it doesn't bother me. I figure if I'm getting something good, I don't mind waiting a little bit longer. But it's just like 2 or 3 ladies in a little tiny house. So, and like I said, some of them are pretty complex. You may end up waiting a little longer than you normally would. So just keep that in mind when you go there. So, but yeah. But if you want a snowball, and it is 109 here today, so it is snowball weather.
Oh, he did that 109?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nasty here, Tim. There's no air movement at all.
No.
We were at the beach the last 5 days, and it was a really good breeze every day on the beach. I mean, almost like a wind. It was strong.
Yeah, we did not have the wind.
As soon as you walk up the street, it's like there's no wind at all, no breeze at all.
No, it's really hot here, and I think we're in hot season for a while. So, I think that's about it for today, right?
I think that's it. I mean, we keep hoping we'll get closer and closer to some games. So it's all we can hope for. We keep giving you guys great things to watch on Netflix. I am going to finish season 6 of The Republic of Doyle tomorrow night, because tonight I'm going to watch Perry Mason again.
Yes, and
The Republic of Doyle I found very, very entertaining. I mean, a mindless, entertaining TV with a little story. It's with likable characters.
that's definitely not the worst right
Even
now.
the bad guys are likable.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, everybody, stay safe. Wear that mask. Get your neighbor to wear a mask, but don't get in a fight about it.